without necessarily compressing it more.
Sometimes it can make it feel smaller, being selective in kind of what you're saturating and why, I think is important. Just saturating for the sake of saturating, I don't think is always necessarily the answer. But yeah, I mean, sometimes there's no saturation on my mix bus, and sometimes it's just like straight limiting, and like the record's already there. And I obviously have other like sub buses that lead to that, and there's like console sort of saturation type stuff on that. But yeah, definitely just not like a top down sort of guy. It's just not the way I go about things. So
somebody, I had a guy on the show named Brian Bender, and he was saying that like the reason why I never compress the stereo bus is because like it just fucks up all the different time things that I've done with all the other compressors. So like, how, let's say the drums are compressing fast and the vocal is compressing slow, or the other way around or whatever. And then you just shove it all into one compressor at like, 10 milliseconds and, whatever, fast release on the SSL or whatever. And you're just completely screwed up all those little miniature time differences that you've already made with the individual compressors before that. Does that resonate with you? Is that something that you're thinking about?
I'm not specific. I mean, yes, sort of. I mean, again, I'm just not like a top, like I think people who are doing heavy mix bus compression stuff like that are a top down sort of person where they're already mixing into an SSL compressor or something like that that's already taking off a good amount of stuff, and it's gluing the mix for sure. But what they're doing is they're slamming it, and then they're going back and making all those smaller decisions in the mix where it's like, okay, great, I'm compressing, I got about the amount of dB I want it coming off, whatever. Like it glues it and does like a gushy thing is kind of the way I can hear that sort of compression on a mix bus. But then they're pushing and pulling within the mix. So that's when you would dial in your mix bus your drum bus compression. That's when you would dial in like your vocal compression. That's when you'd start to EQ stuff to get it to push and pull within what you're already doing on the mix bus. If you take that mix bus compressor off later, it's destroyed, which in today's day and age is really hard because everybody needs stems. Everybody even needs multi-tracks nowadays. So anytime you're really doing a lot of heavy lifting on the mix bus, your whole mix is going to fall apart if you need the stems or if you need control later.
Yes, absolutely.
Some people care about that and some people don't, but it's becoming more and more of a thing. Like to go back to the Atmos thing, like you were saying, like everybody wants recallable multi-tracks. They don't even want stems anymore. They want multi-tracks, which is crazy and makes sort of an issue because even like bus processing, even like drum bus processing, if you're doing a heavy lifting thing on that, like your multi-tracks don't line up and they don't sound like the mix. So
right.
It's a weird time for sort of like deliverables.
Wow, that's nuts.
Yeah,
that's nuts.
If you talk to people who are like working for label stuff and delivering like label stuff, they want usually the committed multi-tracks because the labels then are going to take those and have like somebody for Atmos mix them.
Oh my gosh.
And when they pull it up for Atmos, they want it to at least be as close to the mix as possible. So yeah, it's weird. And I mean, I'm not specifically doing it for that reason. It's just sort of the way that I've always liked to work in some extent. So it's convenient that now I could, just commit to everything and like it's there. But yeah, a lot of people I know their workflows have been changing for that reason because
that's super interesting.
They have to give
the formats are changing the way people work.
Correct. Well, even think about like the format of Atmos, right? Like you really can't even use mix bus compression on Atmos. Like there is no mix bus on Atmos. It's
Atmos is more dynamic, right? It's
more dynamic.
It's like it's like minus 16, I think, defaulted, right? Like LUFS or something.
I don't know specifically anything about it, to be totally honest. But my point,
me, I don't know much either.
My point just being like the final deliverable of Atmos is a multi-track. You get what I'm saying?
Yes.
So like, how do you deliver a multi-track and be like, oh, I have compression on the mix bus? Like mix bus is something that can only happen to a 2-track file. So there's ways that guys are getting around that and they're gluing their Atmos stuff by using crazy like side chaining methods. But at the end of the day, it's not a 2-track deliverable anymore. So it works differently.
That's so interesting.
Yeah. So the format, I like the format changes kind of the way we work sometimes. Yeah.
For sure. Wow. I haven't thought about it quite like that before. One of the things that I don't like about Atmos in terms of, I've only heard it binaurally, so I can't really speak for having listened in a real Atmos environment. Yeah. So the judgment is still out for me. Like I don't know because I haven't done it.
Yeah.
I'm sure it's amazing. I know it's amazing in movie theaters and stuff. But like what I didn't like binaurally was how the low end, it just doesn't slap in Atmos the way it slaps in stereo.
Yeah.
And a lot of that is phasing issues, like phase coherency, and but also maybe has to do with that like stereo bus thing that we get to do in stereo mixes that just completely gets taken apart in an Atmos rig because it's not loud, and that the thing that we like about low end slapping is that loudness thing sometimes.
Yeah.
And so maybe that's a part of the issue as well.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I mean, it's a new platform. It's a new way of consuming that we've never done before.
Right.
Like imagine going from mono to stereo. Like you're like, I don't know.
Exactly.
There's too many things to focus on now. I can't think, so there's definitely a learning process. And there's a learning process even in like how to make art for that medium. So I think we're still in that process where like everybody's like, oh, I don't know, I could do whatever I could do. Like just because you can doesn't mean you should.
Right. Like the early Beatles records where like the drums and bass are on the left.
Yeah.
And we're definitely in that era. There's no doubt about it.
But yeah, currently it's still a very unnatural way to listen to music because, we're not used to hearing things coming at us from all over the place. So it's weird. And you definitely have to hear it in like an Atmos room. I haven't spent much time with any of this stuff, but I mean, I've heard Atmos rooms and they're worth having a conversation about more than anything that on headphones is. Like the headphone thing I also just hate headphones in general. So I don't understand headphones even in a stereo aspect, like how to listen on headphones. So like throwing binaural wannabe Atmos pseudo whatever down mix stuff in there, so confusing to me.
Right. Yeah, I actually spoke with Bobby Osinski, who's like one of the the OGs of like audio interviewers and stuff. And I asked him like, "Do you really think this is happening?" And he said like, "Not until there's like newer technology that allows people to kind of more easily place speakers around a space, because it's until you get over the spouse problem of like, why are you putting all these speakers there? You're not gonna you're not gonna be able to convince people to just kind of do this in any kind of environment or car environment, or you know what I mean. We need like better technology in terms of like speakers.
Yeah,
to make it.
I mean, we're moving to headphones. Like we're gonna have headphones strapped to our heads for the rest of infinity probably. So I think it's more to me about making things on headphones sound more realistic and spatial, I guess.
Yeah. We'll have to see what happens.
Which is getting there, man. Like I did like the wave stuff, how they do, like they have their like NX, whatever it is that like you could be in a room, and it's pretty crazy. It's getting close, man. Like, cause they have like the ones where they model studios that like are speakers.
Right. Kind of like also like the Slate VSX.
Okay,
or whatever.
Slate does that too. Yeah, I forgot.
No, but I think Waves has one also. The NX.
Yeah, Waves. I wrote an article for them a few years back that was on that, and they have like the head tracking thing and whatnot. I haven't listened to it recently, and I'm sure they put out new ones since then, or even the Slate or whatever. But when I listened to it back then, I was like, man, if I close my eyes, and I think like it's pretty close, it's pretty crazy, and like give it 5 more years. Like you give technology like that just a little more time, and it's gonna be pretty crazy. It's definitely the way we're moving, I think, to some extent. So we'll see. I don't know what the future looks like, and it's hard to like.
For now, you're still mixing stereo. So.
Totally. I mean, it's been on my never-ending to-do list to like spend some time in Logic, because they have like all the Atmos stuff built into it that you can kind of do the spatial thing. So I was gonna play around with that and see what it looks like. But yeah, I'm sticking to the stereo thing for now. It feels. Here's my one take on Atmos, I guess. Like it just feels like it's in like the money grab stage currently still, where like everybody is trying to get the upper hand just to say that they did, or just to like future proof themselves, which, in this industry, I don't blame anybody for doing, but that's just kind of where I'm at with it, where like the only reason I would get into it would be fear-based of like, if I don't do this, I'm not going to have a career in 5 years. Because it's also just not something I'm passionate about at all. Like I don't get it. I don't really enjoy listening to it on headphones or anything. So like, it's hard for me to like want to spend all this time to like learn about it and do more things with it, when at the base of it, I just don't care, unfortunately.
Yeah.
At its current state.
At this state, you're still happy with the way stereo mixes make you feel and translate. And
totally. Yeah. I mean, I think there's still a long ways that has to happen with that, even of people getting better at making music in stereo, which is the funny part. We're adding all these speakers and people are still, on the forums asking how to make their bass sound better, on stereo. So we're jumping ahead a little bit, but, that's how it goes.
Yeah. Well, you talked about getting really fast in mixing and, how the technology is getting so good in the box. Is there anything particular that you found that's either helped you work faster or better or smarter, maybe since last time we spoke?
No, more reps. I'm
just more reps.
I'm the worst person to talk about tools or plugins or anything just because I still use the stuff I used when I was 15 or 16. Waves.
I saw you posted recently. I basically used the old Waves bundle, the Pro Q3, and
quite literally all I use. Yeah, I mean, I'll try and push myself every once in a while to be all right, let me buy a new plugin and see if I could implement this in my session. And I just never really do. Nothing sticks, just because I kind of found my way and it works. And I use, a decent amount of SSL kind of channel strip type stuff, FabFilter Pro Q, the old school Waves, just Renaissance stuff. It just is fine. It works. It's good. It's what I know.
What about deharshifying stuff like Soothe or I guess maybe dynamic EQ kind of stuff?
Yeah, I use stuff like that. I'm a big multi-band compressor guy. I'll use that to fix stuff a lot of times. Soothe's cool. The newer one is the first Soothe I think was complete snake oil garbage, but the second one's got more controls on it, and the attack and release knobs on that are sort of the magic to me. Yeah, I mean, I use it on every mix. I'm not going to sit here and act like I don't use it. I mean, I use it. It's part of my vocal chain and whatnot. So it does a thing. I mean, it's a cool tool, but could I mix a record without it? Definitely, Yeah. It's almost one of those things where it's I'm forcing myself to use it in a way that probably is making more problems for me, It's probably making things more phasey and washy sounding that I'm then trying to fix later, So... But
right.
No, I mean, there's some great tools out there. I mean, the isotope stuff, is constantly pushing the boundaries as far as what you can do as far as saving audio or cleaning it up or, So, I mean, I'm not against new innovations, but I just feel there's a lot of tools that are just being rebranded and done in different ways. And I already have a million EQs. I don't need another EQ that sounds a little different. I don't know. That's just the way I go about that type of thing.
Yeah. Who needs another 1176,
Yeah. Well, there is a market for 1176s, I feel in the plugin world, because I'm trying to get away from using UAD stuff as much. And I don't think anybody has 1176 that's quite as good. So if anybody listening has something they like, let me know. But I can't find another Blue Stripe that does the thing that the UAD one does. So.
All right. Well, I don't have any UAD plugins, so so I don't know. I'm not the point of comparison here.
Yeah. But, there's something about it. I don't know.
I feel that.
But at the end of the day, it's a tool that, is minutely different than something else that serves a purpose, so. And
you can get to wherever you want to go in either of those, right? You could drive to work in a Camry or you could drive to work in a Honda or whatever.
Yeah.
Both get you there.
It's definitely about the way that you know how to use one more comfortably than the other, so, and that's why I stick to what works for me. I have my plug-in repertoire and it works and it's quick and it makes sense and I know how to navigate it. You put me on some, that's why sometimes I get sessions from other people where they don't commit to their plugins and I just open it up and can tweak or whatever. And that's always hard for me because A, I don't know how to use the tools that they're using, and B, I don't know how to, I'm not in their mind, so I don't know how they're using that tool in that way. So it's really this sort of thing where it's I'm trying to reverse engineer stuff, and it's always a hard thing to do,
Right. Yeah. Artists, commit to your sounds.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, it's going to a kitchen, that you don't usually work in, and then you're looking for the silverware, and you're frustrated the whole time because it's not your kitchen. You don't know where your things are. That's just muscle memory at that point.
Yeah. The truth is, I always start kind of my mixes from the ground up. I don't take sessions from other people, and when I do, it always just throws me off. If I'll get a session that I have to take to the next level, I'm inevitably gonna mess something up and get into a tail chasing moment of oh, so I kind of put my like stereo bus processing on, and now something's distorting and it's weird, and like all these things, I'll just end up having